heroism. It's the pursuit of two ideals, excellence and a higher purpose. This noble mission is not just found in Hollywood. It's a game changer for businesses devoted to it. Almost all business owners launch their company to make a difference in the world around them. Join us on the Heroic Experience as we talk with business owners, senior leaders, and established entrepreneurs so that you too can elevate your business to heroic success. Now, here's your host, John D. Hanson.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience. We're grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Check out their digital signage solutions and far more on their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Happy to have Greg Schenk, exclusive tenant rep, national speaker, teacher, trainer, mentor, and coach as our guest in studio today. Greg, honored to have you. Looking forward to our time together. We always kick off the first segment with 2-3 wow stories from clients you've worked with, especially the ones that may have never heard of you before. You come in and they're like, we are so glad we worked with Greg. So we'd love to hear some of those stories, and welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, John. It's great to be here. I have a lot of them over the years.
I'm sure you do.
I think we've helped over 800 companies, but ones that stand out.
Yeah.
I helped the division of the Supreme Court of the state of Ohio for 3 times.
Wow.
And they just had a situation a couple years ago where their employees couldn't afford to park downtown anymore. Parking's gotten expensive downtown.
Yeah.
So I actually thought we were going to maybe move out of downtown, but I found a landlord that had lost half the tenants in their building, had gone elsewhere, and a new landlord had taken over, so they were very hungry.
That's a good combination.
So a big part of our business is keeping our finger on the pulse and figuring out which landlords have the money to improve the space, which ones can really incentivize a good credit tenant, which we had. So
sure,
we got them over $700,000 of build-out allowance to build out a brand new space for them, and got their parking fees reduced, so all their employees were happy. Happy employees do better.
Yes, right.
And this was just pre-COVID.
Okay.
So, people were still going into the office every day, but
right.
It really turned a nightmare scenario where they were very concerned, and they had people coming from all over Central Ohio, 20, 30 miles away in some cases.
Right.
But yet, because they were part of the Supreme Court, that they really wanted to stay downtown.
Yes.
But that was their hot button, and every company has a different hot button, and that was their hot button. But not only did we get them incredible terms and conditions, but the biggest thing was the employees were happy because they weren't getting gouged anymore for parking, which unfortunately a lot of people are.
How do you, as a company, I know we'll get into really fine details in the third segment, but how are you able to do that, keep your pulse on the market how do you identify landlords, commercial landlords that are like that?
Well, it's getting out there every day and talking to people, talking to brokers, talking to property managers, talking to owners, really trying to find out, are they a long-term holder of the property? Are they somebody that's going to fix it up and keep it? Are they people that either don't have the money to put back in or won't spend the money?
Right.
And obviously, as the market ebbs and flows, that can really change. Maybe their loan's coming up. So, for example, if the building's really empty, it's really hard to get the building refinanced.
Right.
If they're getting closer to the top, they might want one more deal that they can then take to the bank and refinance and get better terms that they can then pass on to the tenants with lower rental rates.
Right.
And or borrow money to fix up the building.
Right. Right.
So today, the cost of build-out is just astronomical.
Right.
So that really comes into play probably more than ever in the 36 years I've been doing this because of that factor.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you asked me for 3. Another one, and probably my biggest success story ever, was Progressive Medical, which was on the Business First list 15 years in a row of Fast 50. So I met Dave Bianconi, the owner, at a small business nominee. We both were nominated for Small Business Person of the Year, I want to say 25 years ago, a long time ago. And he won, and we became good friends. And he had built his own building and made every mistake he could make on building a building. He'd used a residential contractor. He put it on 2 floors. It wasn't laid out very well. So he had a lot of issues with the HVAC system, parking. So employees are bitching, same thing. Employees are bitching. So we found him a site that wasn't even listed in Westerville, across the street from a park. We built him a building with the ability to expand it, and he went from $7 million a year to a couple $100 million a year in sales.
Wow.
And went from 12,000 feet to 108,000 feet in space. And we built him, I think, about 34,000-foot building. And I remember him saying, like it was yesterday, "Oh, we'll never take this second floor. What'd you get me into taking so much space?" And here he just grew. And so the amount of savings that he had in the long term by not having to move several times was astronomical. And this is about as good a hearted man as I had ever met. And when he had sold the company, he donated the building to his church.
Wow.
And the building, I think, was worth about $13 million.
Right.
So kind heart. So I was really proud that I could be a small part of that and, help them with that whole process on there. I think I've helped over 100 startup companies. And, I guess for number 3, it's just helping a company that was working from their garage, was working from their basement, was working from, wherever, and just putting them in and, just seeing the smiles on their face that, wow, we have a place to call home now and doing that. I mean, I can't think of just the one that really sticks out, but just so many that, we're there. So that's a real exciting part of my business.
Yeah, it's got to be very rewarding.
It really is.
You mentioned in that last one with Progressive Medical, there's that idea that if you build it, they will come. We just build it bigger and we'll get more business. But on the other hand, do you see a connection between creating more space also can sometimes, if you've got the right mix, can be a recipe for growth by expanding space? Does that incentivize? Does that encourage? Does that provoke growth for companies that do have more space available rather than being on top of each other?
Well, it's that risk and reward scenario. Somebody's paying for it. If you got 20% of the space empty, number one, there's the cost to build it or rent it. And number two, obviously the utilities, the taxes, everything else. So I don't have many companies that take that risk.
Got it.
I've got a client I'm dealing with now that thinks they're going to grow from 15 to 20 to 30,000 feet. But to bite it off, I mean, do you want to pay an extra 50 or 100 grand a year in rent that you're not going to use it for 3 years?
Right.
For that long-term growth?
Right.
I mean, that's the roll of the dice that not every company is going to take. Okay? So big risk-taking companies that are fast growth, they probably have to take it. If not, they're going to get hamstrung. The worst thing they can do is go into 20,000 feet. If in 2 years they need 30 and they can't grow and they waste a year, so they will definitely get stifled, or they have to go to multiple facilities that they lose a bunch of efficiencies.
Yes, right.
On there. So we take all that into effect when we're working with companies. We usually get a space planner involved to try to see where they've been, where they are now, and where do they want to go, and try to do as much forecasting, not only for employee headcounts, but a lot of other factors.
So we're up against the break. Time flies, I'll tell you. So quick question. What's been the most interesting city or state or country that you've visited in connection with what you do? What jumps off the top of your head?
I got to say Florida. We were talking about it off market, how much it's grown every city. I drove down there in December, and I bet you 8 different cities are busting at the seams how much it's grown.
It's exciting. I tell you, I've got friends down there, and it is exciting to see. There's, in spite of what you hear, there are good things going on economically within our country. And, well, I'm looking forward to diving into the second segment with Greg Schenk, our guest, to hear his story. You'll want to join us back after the break. If you like this podcast, The Heroic Experience, you can find us on Spotify, Podbean, our YouTube channel, Accelerated Revenue, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. However you like to listen, tune in so we can help elevate your business to heroic success.
Inspire, influence, and connect your audience with digital signage. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Whether you need digital menu boards for your quick service restaurant, digital displays for marketing in your retail stores, or wayfinding and unified communications for your schools, your corporations, or your healthcare facility, our customizable, affordable options and proven experience make us the only partner you'll need for your next digital signage project. Visit kaufmanmedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Would you buy a car from a dealer without a test drive first? For your business, a consulting partner is even more important. Accelerated Revenue is excited to announce the Take Us for a Test Drive event. Receive 2 exclusive workshops on customer experience and winning culture, a customized culture snapshot, and a leadership strategy session worth over $10,000, all in for just $2,500. Best of all, when you onboard our consulting team, we'll credit you the entire $2,500. Spots are limited, so visit our website today at accrev.com/test drive.
Check out John's worldwide selling book, Wow Your Customers, 7 Ways to World-Class Service on Amazon. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience. We are grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Digital landscape, it's everywhere, and so is digital signage. It's more than you realize. It's about a communication, not just with your clients, but with your team too. Learn more about Kaufman Media's digital signage solutions at kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Honored to have Greg Schenk, exclusive tenant rep, national speaker, teacher, trainer, mentor, and coach, as our guest in studio today. Greg, this is my favorite portion of the show because I get to hear people's stories. That's what fascinates me the most. So far back as you'd like to go, we'd like to hear yours.
Well, that's a big one. 21 years old, I'm out of college, don't have a dime to my name, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I get a job that could have sent me anywhere in the U.S., sales job, and they send me to Los Angeles, California. I'm living in a hotel for 4 months, missing my mom, missing my family, but also loving L.A. and the good weather. Ended up living on the beach there for 4 years. One day I flew back for a friend's wedding in Toledo where I grew up, drove down here to Columbus, and had a gut feel Columbus was going to grow. I left the job with a company car, an expense account, and a decent salary and came back to straight commission to get in the commercial real estate business. I set a very high goal. I said, I'll give it 2 years. If not, I'll move back. And I was living on the beach. And everybody said, you're nuts. You're effing nuts. Why would you leave the beach and move back to Ohio? Some people didn't know where Columbus was at the time. Now, this is quite some time ago.
But still.
So I set this high goal, and fortunately, I hit that high goal, and 9 years later, I did the biggest deal in the state, and I left the biggest company in the country and went out on my own and started my own exclusive tenant rep business, the only one in town that does that, and the same thing happened. Everybody said I was nuts, I was stupid, I was committing suicide business-wise by leaving the biggest company in the country and going out on my own, worked out of my basement for 2 years, and literally my business doubled overnight. And I wasn't giving 50 cents of every dollar to my old company.
That's right.
And I could use that to invest in investment property. And I started buying properties across the country and in partnership. And literally every dream I had as a kid, every goal I set came true. So I started speaking and teaching about it and teaching others how to get a foundation for lifelong success. I designed 2 courses for continuing ed for realtors. And it went so good in Ohio, I took it nationwide. And that's really what I'm most passionate about in life now is listening to other people's stories, seeing where they're stuck and helping them really get to the next level, whether it's helping a company improve their bottom line with their real estate facilities, helping a company or an individual buy investment properties and really connecting them with other successful people around the country and all the trusted advisors they need, like a real estate attorney, an accountant, a bank financing, contractors, architects, whoever they need in the process that they don't already have. So it's been a great journey, and really I can't wait for the next part.
What do you think? I see this common thread of that risk reward that we talked about in the first segment, where you take that risk and you get the payoff. What do you think is behind your, I wouldn't say willingness, but your drive to take on something that you know has risk in exchange for that reward? Because not everybody's wired that way. What do you think is behind that wiring of why you've done that multiple times in your career?
Well, that's a really good question. And I was brought up in a very conservative family. My mom's father had died when she was young. My mom and dad got divorced when I was young. So all was drilled in my head was save, save, save. Don't spend. Clip coupons. Don't take risk. So the fact that I did get into one of the most riskiest business, most of my assignments are 8 months to a year. So imagine going 8 months to a year without a paycheck.
Right.
And starting a straight commission position. It's really tough. It's really seeing the potential. Probably moving to Los Angeles out of college was the best thing that ever happened because it exposed me to people that made incredible amounts of money in all different walks of life. Computers were just getting started, and I had friends in computer sales that were making 5 times what I was making in my sales job. I'm like, wait a minute, they put their pants on the same way I do.
Right.
And then I met stockbrokers and bond traders and people that were making $1 million a year in their 20s. And I said, something's wrong with this picture here. And I'm making $20-some thousand a year thinking I'm doing great.
Right.
And they're making that in a week. And I'm like, hello.
Hello.
So I had one friend out of the blue said, I think you'd be good in this industry, in this business. And I said, what is it? I didn't even know what it was. But what I saw was there was no limits put on you. You were going to get out of life and out of the business what you put into it. And I believed in myself. I said I knew I had a good work ethic. I grew up as a golf caddy, and I got exposed to wealthy people through that, and heard their stories of what they're doing. And I'm like, hey, they're out here on a Wednesday afternoon golfing. They must be doing pretty good,
Right?
On here. So I think it's getting exposed to it. And I think people today, if you've heard, the average person doesn't have $500 to their name for an emergency. So in my opinion, we don't need the government handouts. What we need is the education and the inspiration and exposing them to the opportunities. And once you've been exposed to people and listened to their stories of how they got started, like Dave Bianconi, who came from totally nothing, Southeast Ohio, poor country, poor city, and poor area of Ohio.
Yeah.
And see what he did with his life, one of the most successful people ever from Central Ohio. Anybody can do it if they want it bad enough. So I guess I wanted it bad enough. I had that burning desire to succeed, and I listened and studied every great motivational trainer, sales trainer. Excuse me. I took Dale Carnegie right out of college. It was basically my sales training and human relation skills that probably helped me more than any course that I took at Ohio State, and just put that sense into me. Yeah. That if you give people what they want, you're going to get what you want out of life. Don't make it about you. Make it about them, the client.
Yeah. The exposure to social media, it's everywhere, and it's great at capturing like the 12th inch of success, but not the millimeters of progress, study, connections, exposure of along the way. Setbacks are part of that learning curve of what didn't go right so that you can learn how to do it right. Social media is really good about capturing that picture where they've arrived, right? But then if you get to the story, right? You get behind that success, which it is, you find this common element of they weren't handed it. It was a combination of experiences, decisions, hard work, studying and learning. What would you say is one of the attributes you look for someone that has potential, but they don't know it yet themselves when you're coaching?
Well, I did a podcast last year on that subject, so it's a great one. And the title of it was, if you try to earn before you learn, you get burned. Most people don't have the foundation, and they're not willing to put forth the work and effort and the studying,
right? Which
in my case, I tell people getting in my business, it's 18 months to 2 years. Look at like you're going back to get your master's. You're going to starve for 2 years, and after that, you're going to build a foundation that's going to lead you to lifelong success. So it's getting, number one, that work ethic, and realize it's not going to come easy. It is, like you pointed out, a lot of little baby steps. Having an attitude of gratitude, because you need to surround yourself by other good, uplifting, motivated, hardworking, smart people that are going to challenge you, not be yes people, but give you grief if you're not stepping up. Just like a personal trainer is going to push you to lift your personal best, you want the same thing that's telling you, look, you got to step up your game and work harder and study more, and again, really give it your best for that. And you're right, not everybody is willing to do that.
Excellent. Well, this segment is always my favorite. Well, join us back. We're up against another break. Join us back where we'll learn more details about how Greg helps businesses and people. Join us back after the break.
Did you know that 70% of U.S. residents 12 and older recall seeing digital signage in the past week? Digital signage provides a 35% reduction in perceived wait time with a 30% increase in a customer's in-store browsing time. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Christina said,
"We love our digital signage. The software is easy to use and we can publish content in minutes. It allows for every department to be seen and have a voice."
Visit kaufmanmedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Attention event planners. Is your company or association planning a conference, seminar, or staff retreat? Are you looking for fresh ideas on high-demand topics like customer experience, leadership, empathy, customer service, earning and keeping trust, and more? Then you need to book John D. Hansen as your next speaker. Brooke said,
"Great presentation. John's concepts help shift my thinking. A good fit for my life right now."
Read more testimonials, discover John's full list of speaking topics, check out pricing and more on our website, accrev.com/keynote.
Would you like to be a guest on the Heroic Experience? Contact us at john.hansen@accrev.com. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience. We're grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media, digital signage solutions, and far more. Check out their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Grateful to have Greg Schenk, exclusive Tenant Rep, national speaker, teacher, trainer, mentor, and coach as our guest. The second segment always is just packed full of great ideas, life concepts, and principles. This is the segment, though, Greg, where we really get to dive into the differentiators. There's commercial real estate advisors, consultants, experts across the country, everywhere. What would you say are some of the differentiators that you have heard from your clients and you know you possess that make a difference in what you do?
Well, the biggest thing is we do exclusive tenant representation. We don't do listings. So we give companies an unprejudiced view of the market. And it gets back to the seek first to understand, then be understood. We're there to be a consultant advisor first and a resultant second. So I'm the only one that exclusively does that in Central Ohio, and I banded together with other experts around the world. I've got about 83 companies in the U.S., 83 U.S. markets, and about 120 around the world. So if I have a client here and they want to open up an office in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Tucson, Arizona, or Boise, Idaho, I have an expert that knows that market the way I know Central Ohio.
Smart, yeah.
So what I did when I left the biggest company in the country to really get the word out is I study the market about 3 hours a day.
Wow.
So I am able to use that in my speaking and teaching to educate people, not sell them anything. Every other broker out there is trying to sell their listing. Here's the bells and whistles. They're saying our company's the biggest, which there are a lot of big ones out there. I'm not a big company, but bigger isn't better. Better is better. And we're giving such a higher level of service by our market knowledge, by, as I told you earlier, keeping our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the market and having the contacts that they need to make the process go smoothly.
Yeah.
Because every company or every person needs these trusted advisors to help their life go easier. The analogy I use, John, is you wouldn't go to court without an attorney. You wouldn't do your taxes without a CPA. Why go into the second most largest business expense your company is going to have without an expert that's strictly and solely representing you and your interest?
Yeah, I know it's interesting how that it's not often seen in real estate as a potential conflict of interest to have someone that's also winning on both sides. They benefit from both sides of things.
Would you have an attorney represent both sides in a court case? Of course not. So most listing agents that try to do tenant rep, their company may have 3 of the 10 buildings you go look at, which is a total conflict of interest. We took that out. And the law changed in 1989. Before that, it was let the buyer beware. And the state of Ohio enacted the agency disclosure law to let each tenant know who represents whom in a transaction. When that law changed, I moved all my business over to exclusive tenant rep, and then I banded together with these other experts around the country so we could have a seamless way to help companies no matter where they wanted to be with that. So everybody's probably heard of a buyer's broker on the residential side.
Right.
But they may not know or have been educated yet about a tenant rep on the commercial side.
And that does make a difference. It does make a difference. What is a best way that people can contact you to learn more about what you do, what you have to offer?
Schenkcompany.com, SCHENK company.com is our website. Schenk Training gives some of our podcasts, webinars, things like that, some examples of what we've done. They can Google me. They can find me on LinkedIn, Greg Schenk, on there, or our phone number is 614-496-2715. That's 614-496-2715. And we can certainly introduce you to people if you're looking for things in other markets as well. And we stay in and part of the process the entire way. The buck stops with us, basically.
Where do you think your love for learning came from? Is that something you acquired, or is that something you've always had?
I probably got to thank my mom. She was a teacher.
Ah, okay.
And she got me reading at a very young age. Mm-hmm. So I've had a lifelong love of reading. I'm a voracious reader, as I said. I probably study the market 3 hours a day. Mm-hmm. So I'm reading every tidbit, every magazine article. I get emails literally from all over that I'm reading market information, trends, what's going on with that. So I did. I got that very early in life, and then I studied really the top 10 or 12 sales traders, motivational speakers, human relations thing, everything to become better, you know, because I think it's like shaving. If you don't do it every day, you're going to be a bum after a while. Not beard intended, John, but
I do have to shave every day.
I do think it's really important to keep mentally stimulated. And so for me, learning about the market. So we talked earlier, for example, of how much it costs to build out space now.
Yes.
And it can sometimes be double what it used to be because lumber's up, steel's up, cement's up, labor's up. It's hard to even get these parts.
If you can get them,
If you can get them. So there's so much more complexity than there was 2 years ago. So somebody that might have signed a lease 3 or 5 years ago, the market is totally different. The warehouse market right now is as hot as it's ever been.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for a warehouse or manufacturing space, and I have a new manufacturing client right now, it's a challenge.
Oh, yeah. And it's in hot markets where the flow of goods are only going to get stronger. It's that much more challenging on top of all those.
It really is now. But if you're an office tenant with more companies looking at partial work from home or hybrid, there's going to be more opportunities, especially in downtown areas.
Yes.
Okay? So that's the thing. We keep our finger on the pulse and study the trends from different markets, different product types to say what's going on and how can we best help our clients with that. Interest rates are changing. So what does that mean? If you own a building, maybe look at refinancing if you haven't refinanced. If you're going to buy an investment property, what's the rate's going to be? Nobody's got a crystal ball. Mine's a little, fuzzy of what's going to go on. But the sooner you have a strategic plan together, the more time and money you're going to save. The problem is most companies come to me with almost a fire approach of, oh, my God, my lease is coming up.
Oh, right.
And we got a notice from my landlord, and I've got a 200% holdover penalty if I don't make an answer soon. So I like to start early, 12 to 18 months early, and you can renew your lease at any time during the process. But the earlier you start, the more time and money that you'll save.
Of course. And the landlords they'll honor that incentivization because if you're going to take that kind of initiative that far ahead of when it's up to renew, it just makes it better for them too. It's a win-win.
Yeah, it's no different than refinancing your home. So we call it restructuring existing, whether it's downsizing, whether it's expanding, or whether it's relocating to a different space that's going to fit your new needs better with hybrid work solutions that a lot of companies are going to.
Yeah. So you've got a young person. Time has flown. It always does in these shows because I love the conversations. You've got a young person. What would be the one thing that you would say, start here? This is your next best step. If you're a self-motivated hard worker, start here in any career. Where would you tell them to start?
Shadowing people that you admire. Go spend an afternoon or go have lunch and pick their brain, see what they're doing great that other people aren't. Okay? So when I got in the business, I went and talked to different people and different product types on there, and I trusted my gut. I'm a big believer in trusting your gut.
But you also do the work, and you study, and you learn, so it's not like you're going on a whim. There's a lot behind that gut.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, Greg, thank you so much for being our guest. Heroic Experience is here to elevate businesses of all sizes, small and medium companies especially, business owners, executives, business leaders, established entrepreneurs. We want to help elevate your business to heroic success. And one way that we're we do that is to have guests like Greg on that will share stories and principles that you can use. Apply them today. Join us back on the next show.
This has been the Heroic Experience. To learn how your business can be profitable and heroic, visit ACCREV.com. For access to free weekly content, subscribe to the Accelerated Revenue YouTube channel and follow John D. Hanson on LinkedIn. To listen to archived shows, find them on the Accelerated Revenue website under the Resources tab, ACCREV.com.